I think we're about ready to go together with this thing. All right, so took the bolt off the back of the, I guess I'm gonna call this a stator, and was able to drive the pulley off. And what was wrong with it, the bearings are actually in good shape. The stator was rusted to the magnets. There was rust on the magnets. Clean that up, clean the stator up a little bit. I'm gonna put it back together. Don't want to go crazy with it. Don't want to take away too much material. We'll see, as long as it spins freely, we'll go with it, or I'll do some more cleaning on it. So we'll see, and then we should be able to put it back on the tractor. Who knows if it'll charge, but it'll at least spin. Well, I doubt very seriously this thing's gonna charge. Actually, I had to take a file to it in places. It was so rusty. It was proud, you know, hitting the magnets. So flat file to it. Filing on an angle. Got ones like that, cleaned up. I mean, it's rough, but it spins now. So put it all back together and I'll put it on the tractor. I've cleaned up the other pulleys. Had to weld a piece in the fan pulley because it was missing a big chunk of it. So welded that in. Fan pulley's ready to go on. Got the generator or alternator or stator, whatever you want to call it, freed up, and the pulley cleaned up. So we'll put that on. I'll probably throw some paint maybe on that stuff. Probably be black, but just to help keep it from rusting anymore. I'm not going to worry about the crank pulley. It's cast and the front of it's all ready rusty, and then the belt surface will stay clean with just something running in it, so I'm not too worried about that one. Probably treat the rust on this pipe here, and then we'll hit it with some kind of paint just to kind of try to help preserve that thing, keep it from rusting out. And the rest of it's probably going to stay. So we've got our gasket surface cleaned up for the water pump, ready to put the water pump on, and then we'll get that ready to get our water neck ready to go on. All right, since my holes didn't line up, what I ended up doing is just welding up the holes, flipping it over and welding it on the upside down. And I didn't clean up very much, but we've got it where it fits, and I'm gonna shoot that with some paint. And I ran these bolts in all the way just to make sure I could tighten up that, and it looks like it must not have been threaded all the way in because it chewed up the threads on the end of the bolts, but I think they will be okay. We're gonna throw a gasket on it. I think what we're gonna go ahead and do is take this bolt out. This thing's gonna be in the way. We're just gonna take it off. If I need to lift this engine out, well, if I need to lift this engine out, I'll put a chain through that bolt or something, but we won't, because we just wanna run a 90 on our upper radiator hose. We want this water spout, or this water neck, pointed out at a 45, and it's gonna hit that, so we might as well just take it off. So I'm gonna do that, then we'll put this thing up here and figure out, and maybe set the radiator on, figure out what angle or how to point this thing. We may just throw the bolts in it and you know, install the 90 with it on the tractor. And then once we kind of get it all, once we get the 90 on, we'll take it back off, probably throw it in the vise and put the little short piece of pipe that the hose is going to connect to, and then we'll throw it all together with some silicone. I did make a gasket. Figured that was probably, I needed to make a gasket anyway, so I made a gasket first and used the gasket to get my holes. And yeah, I know it's not pretty, but it's functional, and I think it'll work good. So I think I'll wait to throw some paint on it till I get the 90s and all that, and then we'll just paint all of it. And I'm just using black paint because I've got some paint and primer all in one that's black, and it's also a rust killer. So that's what everything's getting painted. I know the tractor is blue, but everything on the front of this engine is going to be black, just because. I do have some blue paint left over from the Ford tractor, but it was some pretty crappy paint, and it doesn't have any rust protection or anything like that, and all this stuff's all rusty, so we're just going to go with that black rust killing paint primer. And there's our 90. 90 is galvanized, but we are going to paint it. And we need to get a good battery for this thing with the positive and negative reversed. So, and maybe a little bit shorter. We've also got to fit some kind of air cleaner on this thing. I've got a couple different oil bath air cleaners we could put on it. Problem with that is, it's, you know, it'll have to sit straight up and down, and I'm not sure we can do that. So we'll see. We'll see what I got. I may just throw a foam one on it just temporarily, just to put it around a little bit. I need to get this thing over to the guy's house to get the disc that he had for this tractor, and I don't want to disc up his yard, so I figure the easiest way to go get the disc is to, I had thought about, you know, maybe putting it on a pallet and then have the pallet like on some kind of dolly or something and pull it with the four-wheeler. But, you know, if I can get the tractor going, that's my goal, is to get it going good enough to take it over to his house, hook up to the disc, lift it, and load it up, you know, drive up on the trailer. So, and to do that, we need a functioning, all we really have left is get the cooling system functioning. It runs, the lift works, so I guess we need some kind of a seat, but as long as it runs and we got a lift, you know, we can do the rest of it. I guess I need to get these tires aired up, or get them where they hold air. I think a couple of them aren't holding air. 2 of them, I think. So that's what we're going to try to do. So here's where we are. We've I should have tried loosening this nut off, or that bolt off, before I put this thing back on, but I didn't want to take, that was so hard to get on, I didn't want to take that back off, so it wasn't coming off, so I went to take this cover off. Only one bolt was holding it down there. Of course that bolt broke off, and so I was like, well, shoot. So went to try getting that one off, it broke off. So took this thing off, drilled it out. We're gonna put a bolt with the nut through it. No reason to, you know, deal with that again, as far as, you know, bolts getting stuck in aluminum. Came over on this side of this one, because it's threaded all the way through, and drilled out all the way. So we've drilled the bolt out. I'll probably have to run one size bit larger. The bit I ran through it was you know, fit inside the threads. We're probably gonna have to take the threads out. The other option I could do is take, now that I've gotten the majority of the bolt out, run my tap through on this side, and it would clear out what's left of the bolt. But like I said, bolts in aluminum, they seize up all the time. There's nothing in front of here that's an issue. There's nothing that bolts to the front. So we're just gonna put a bolt through it with a nut. Simple solution. So we're gonna probably have to run a larger bit through here to get a bigger bolt through it. But that's what we're doing there. Hey little guy, you still hanging out in the engine? Yeah, got a freeze plug leaking, and I went ahead and busted it out the rest of the way. We'll have to get that fixed. Also, I got a pinhole in my weld. Trying to get y'all in there where you can see exactly where it's coming from. Right behind that bolt. So we're gonna have to touch that up. We'll do it with it on here, I think. I think we can manage to do that. Just hit that little spot. The radiator itself, I don't know, I don't think I spilt any right there. I think it's leaking right in there and running down. We'll have to see how bad that is. And where else? Is that all of our leaks? That may be all of our leaks that I know of. So that was what I was wanting to do, is see where all we had leaks and see how bad the radiator is. And it's not looking that bad, but we have got somewhat of a cooling system. We need to get a belt. I did do what I was gonna do, and I've got the belt over there on the ground. I've cut a section out of that belt that makes it the correct length. So I'll take that to the store and you know, hold it up to another belt or measure it and get one the right length. I need a long bolt to go down for that cover. I did go ahead and drill it the rest of the way. And let's see what else I'm missing. There was a special bolt here that held the radiator on. It took a little pin through it to make sure it never backed out. And I'm not sure where that is. I gotta look through. Hit these guards with just some black paint before I put the radiator on, just to give it a fighting chance on rust. It's a rust killing paint primer, black paint. So, and then I just quickly coated the front of the engine with black paint. I don't know why. Well, I guess I know why, is because when I painted this pump tube, which I wanted to paint to keep it from rusting anymore, you know, some overspray got on the front cover, so I went ahead and just painted the front cover. And the water pump, to keep the water pump from rusting, you know, since it was just bare metal. And since I painted all the pulleys and all that stuff black, it all just kind of matches now. So the front of the engine is black. We may go back over some of it with blue later on, but for now, it's just gonna be black. That's black. So we're gonna have to get one of these plugs. I'm gonna go ahead and just measure, see what we need, and then we will pick up one. Easy fix right there. You know, it's right there on top. I don't see any other places that are leaking. We've got the block pretty much full of water right now, which is more water than we've ever had in it. So it's good to see that it's at least not leaking with no pressure on it. That is from our leak right there. We're gonna have to wait until this drains out a little bit, but I don't see any, you know, cracks in the block that are leaking, or any other freeze plugs anywhere else that are leaking. So I think that's all good news. So yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna take my wife out to eat, and so I need to go in and get cleaned up. But a couple of things, like I said, I gotta go get a bolt. I'm gonna measure this, see how long of a bolt I need. I'll take my belt as well. We'll run over to Tractor Supply, get a bolt and a belt, and that leak right there will be an easy fix. Let's go ahead and just drain the radiator so that can be dry, so I can weld it like that. Well, I didn't have any luck with a freeze plug, so went to AutoZone. They were completely helpless. Should have just Googled the part number and shown it to them, because I showed them what it was, told them I need a freeze plug, and she proceeded to take me over to kind of like the help section and pulled down some O-rings and then some door hinge bushings. And so I left and went to O'Reilly's. O'Reilly's really helpful. I didn't think to measure it before I left. He pulled out, I thought, my vision was they would take me over to a bin and I could dig through and find the right one. He pulled out a caliper, measured it, looked it up, and said they didn't have it, and said I needed a 3/4, and the smallest they had was 7/8, and it showed me a universal, you know, one of those rubber ones, and it was good for 3/4 to 7/8. So I bought it. Then me and my wife went to dinner, and while we were sitting waiting for a table, I started looking around because I really didn't want the rubber one. Looked around for a 3/4 freeze plug, and lo and behold, O'Reilly showed they had one. So I went back today and just exchanged it for a 3/4 freeze plug. Got back, it's too small. Like, oh man, I should have gotten the 7/8. So I actually measured it this time, and it kind of seems like a 7/8 might fit. It's gonna be a tight fit. It's got to be metric, so I may just try to see what I can get, you know, online for a metric one. I think a 7/8 may be slightly too big, but just to test this thing out and check for leaks, I've got it plugged a little bit. I took that rubber plug back, or I probably would actually use it. I don't like those things, but I would actually use it. since I'm having issues finding one. So, like I said, 7/8 looks like it might be slightly too big, but 3/4 is definitely too small. So I went, took the metal hot glue gun, and I thought I'd pull the radiator and all that stuff off to do it, and I really didn't want to. So I just reached in there and buzzed it just a little bit, and I've got it full of water. It's not leaking. We'll have to see if it holds under pressure, but for right now, it's not. What I did to plug this is that's a piece of heater hose, and then the heater hose is slightly larger than that, and then the bolt fits pretty tight, and so I threw the, got the heater hose down in the hole and then drove this bolt down in there, and so that's kind of expanded the heater hose out, and it's sealing against the bolt, sealing against the head, and it's not leaking. That's from before I filled it up to see if my leak was leaking, because it'll get that high. I could see if my leak was leaking with that still like that, and it wasn't, so we went ahead and proceeded further with that. I found a radiator cap in kind of my stash of radiator caps. I don't know what it fits. It does have a part number on it. What I need to do is see if the pressure is right, try to find one online for this thing, but it does fit. I just don't know if they run a lower pressure than that on here. This 16-pound cap, so we'll have to figure that out. But I wanted to get this thing where I could really test it and see if it's going to, see if the radiator is going to leak. I spilled a little water, so I'm not sure if this here is from leaking or from it just running down when I filled it. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I took the generator or the stator back apart to, it was rubbing a little bit. What I found was that the magnet part of it was a little off-centered. So I'm gonna throw it back on, kind of try to center it up before I tighten the bolt down and see if that fixes it. And then I did pick up a belt. We're gonna put a belt on it. Then we might just go ahead and start this thing up and let it run for a little while with, a cooling system. So that's the plan. We're not gonna be able to put the radiator cap on it because I know that's not gonna hold the pressure, but we can at least run it with the cap off for a little bit.